Hello, good evening, and welcome to tonight's edition of Daily Record Hotline Live with myself, Keith Jackson. I'm joined from the Room of Doom with Michael Gannon. People were complaining yesterday, or worried about that. Mike, they said that it looks like a Berlin cell.
It feels like that as well, actually. Funny enough, it's I keep telling folk this is my office, but it's actually the room where all the junk goes, including me. At one point in the show last week, I had a set of loft ladders behind me.
As well as the broken running machine.
Aye, never mind the kind of the bookshelf and looking kind of fancy. I've got loft ladders and a broken running machine.
Right, we should also be joined later in the show with our resident referee, Des Roache, to look back at some of the more contentious decisions made over the weekend and some interesting topics in that. But Mick, just give us in terms of your thoughts of the weekend. Another bonkers sort of weekend, wasn't it? Goals flying in all over the place. Results that you didn't see coming. It's, whatever they say about Scottish football, every weekend there's just another strange thing happens that nobody saw coming.
It was good, wasn't it? It was some lively stuff. I mean, you get Rangers who are the unfathomables now, aren't they? But you just do not know. You think after going the back of the Celtic one, you think, right, they've got a bit of momentum, put down, and then it's a bit of bonkers afternoon at Dens. I mean, fair play coming back from 2-0 and 3-1 down. It is the old cliche. Would that happened 2 months ago? Probably not. But again, was it 5 in the last 7 games have been 2-0 down?
Yeah,
I mean it's incredible, really. I mean,
that needs to stop.
You get Cyril Dessers having 142 shots on goal and pop up the last minute winner. I mean, tremendous. The big man again. Just well marketed. I was again at Parkhead. You had Hearts who went gung ho against Celtic, causing them a few problems, then get thumped. And then you get elsewhere. I mean, I'm looking now at Kilmarnock, 5 games that I win, big pressure. Now I think a wee section of Kilmarnock fans have gotten a wee bit nippy with Derek McInnes now. They're getting kind of dragged. That last minute goal for Rangers at Dens saved them from slipping into kind of the relegation playoff zone, I think, as well. Alarm bells going off at Kilmarnock at the moment, heading towards the home straight.
I tell you, that's when I talk about results that you didn't see coming. I didn't see that happening.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's the first time in 3 or 4 years I hit 5. I hadn't beat Kilmarnock for about 4 years, I don't think. Really, really, really poor result. And not just a poor result, I mean, an abysmal performance at a time when they really need to get their finger out and get going again.
Most un-Derek McInnes-like, isn't it? So here's a comment actually from a Kelly fan, James Murray. We're near the end of the season yet again. The manager is asking the fans to keep faith. I'm afraid the league table doesn't lie. It's said managers have a sell-by date. It could be Dale boys. I think that's silly. I think mentioned these. I think there was a kind of brief discussion about it last night. You need to be careful what you wish for if you're a Kilmarnock fan. This has been a really disappointing season, I think, by Derek McInnes' own high standards. But I'd be very wary of wanting to call time on him. I can see him regrouping over the summer and Kilmarnock coming back strong again next season. But first and foremost, I guess the priority there, Mick, is just keeping themselves out of trouble.
They need to get, that's it. I mean, they never get going this season. I mean, the European adventure at the start, I thought they did really well in Europe. I mean, I thought
but it's impacted on them domestically, hasn't it?
I was out in Copenhagen for their game. I thought they were good that night as well. I guess a really good team. So they kind of bought themselves time. They knew that it was going to affect them domestically at that point in time. But then when that was out the way, you think, right, they'll kick into gear and they'll start climbing the table. And I always seen come out as another potential top 6, maybe even European chasers again. But they've never got going. Listen, you've got to say that they've been really unlucky. I mean, injuries to guys like Stuart Finlay, Kyle Vassell. You've also had guys who were brilliant last year. Armstrong, Watson. Guys that were last year were absolutely superb. Have they been on it this year at all?
Yeah.
They've been great.
It's been a really weird season.
Hasn't scored since before the new year. The guys that they relied on last year to be so good have been off it this year. It's not really helped McInnes. So, but
really weird season. But I mean, I don't know about you. Before we move on, Michael, but I can't see Kilmarnock getting dragged into this. I can see the opposite. I can see them getting the results and moving quite safely away from the wrong end of the table over the next few weeks. But you just don't know with Kilmarnock. They have been so unpredictable this season.
You're saying you can't see them getting dragged into it. They are in it. That's the whole point. And I think they have to realise that.
Further into it, should I say?
Aye, but I think they need to realise the danger they're in here. This kind of, they'll be all right. We'll be up that table. That's not going to happen now. They're in the thick of it now. And listen, Dundee, Dundee are, I mean, another massive enigmatic side. A team that can score goals. They're really good going forward. Also, a lot of injury problems. Can I defend? I mean, they've lost about 70 goals this season.
We'll come to that.
So, I mean, defending, it's Keystone Cops defending. At times, it's killed them. But they're right in the thick of it. And teams like Ross County who know how to get out of this situation year on, year out. Kelly need to be very mindful that they are in a big bit of bother. And they can't assume anything at this point in time.
Yeah. We got another comment here live on Facebook. Johnny DeMal. Thank God no Daniel tonight. Needed a break from him over drive.
Oh, good Daniel.
I mean, imagine that. I mean, that's just a low blow. Daniel is not well, unfortunately, tonight, but we're hopeful that he'll make a speedy recovery and he'll be on the show again tomorrow night and I won't have to deal with these comments, Gianni. Mike, we have got a lot of stuff coming in, actually, and a lot of it relating to what happened at Dens Park at the weekend.
Yeah.
A lot of debate now, and I've written a column about it today, about Barry Ferguson, and I think we're getting really close to a moment in time where there has to be a discussion. One way or another, Rangers are going to have to make their mind up what next season is going to look like, because they're already weeks and weeks and weeks, months behind the eight ball. Clubs were planning for what they want to do in the summer back in January. And I know that, everybody's left in limbo at the minute because of the American takeover hasn't been finalised. What's your view on this? Is it time to sit him down, give him a year rolling contract and say, right, show us your plans? Because I wonder how much later Rangers can afford to leave this.
No, I don't think it's time. No, I think for once, Rangers need to look at the bigger picture, and I mean the bigger picture that isn't the next 5 years. And this is there's a takeover going through at Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they couldn't get a bigger change. I mean, the entire club is getting taken over. There's going to be a whole new management structure in place behind the scenes. They need a director of football, director of sport, whatever you want to call it these days, in place. The manager is a key component, but I don't think it's something they can rush to get into because of had a decent 5 or 6 games. I mean, I think Barry's done a great. I've said this before on this show that he's given the club back a bit of pride, and at a time when they were a complete laughingstock, he's getting results in Europe. He's beating Celtic. To be honest with you, what happens now and then doesn't really matter. I think he's given them a good few weeks, got the pride back, a bit of fight in that team. They'll come back twice from 2-0 down to win games in the league. I think he's done the job. He's done a better job than they could have hoped when they brought him in. To steady the ship, get them back a bit of pride, get a bit of dig back in the team. The structural problems in that team are still there, and they're going to be there for the rest of the season. Who knows what they could turn out? They could go out and win 5-0 one week, you beat 3-1 the next. Who knows? And I don't think anyone's going to be able to change that, whether it's Barry Ferguson or Pep Guardiola or whoever. But I just think the club needs to have the big building blocks in place before it can make that decision. And when that takes time, then they need to wait for the takeover to go through.
Don't you think the Americans, though, will want to hit the ground running? I mean, this is their first season. They won't want to come in and have a really unimpressive first campaign. So for that reason, I think they need to start planning for it now. So
what happens if they get a director of football who's got an extensive contact list and says, right, I can get you a real top-class European operating manager, come in with me, work with me at that point in time, but they can't appoint him because they've got a manager in place before the director of football? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, if you get...
But they can't put the cart before the horse, surely.
If it's a 1-year rolling contract, though, you can't... I totally agree with you if you were to turn around to Barry Ferguson tomorrow and say he's a 5-year deal. But if it's a 1-year rolling contract, you're effectively just letting him, deal with... I mean, he is a problem right now that doesn't need fixed. The club's got plenty of problems, but Barry Ferguson has come in and he's doing away just fine. He's getting a response out of a limited group of players. I just think, Michael, if they don't start planning for next season now, then I think they're going to face even bigger problems in the summer. And I think if you're new owners and you want to come in, I think you want to go off to a fast start, bring people with you. That'd be my view.
Yeah, I totally get that. But like I say, what happens to bring in? I mean, it happened at kind of Leeds, they bring in Dick's football, and they go and get Daniel Farke, and they're successful. Mm-hmm. I think there's so much that has to be put in place. I mean, listen, I get it. I think a lot of punters now would be quite happy if they said, right, we're going to stick with Barry for the next rolling contract. Here it goes. But it's the curse of the caretaker manager. If he doesn't do particularly well, then it's sole caretaker, doesn't matter. It's like a big change coming. If they do well, they're going to link with the job full time. And sometimes that might be the right way to go. Sometimes it isn't the right way to go. We've seen guys that have been caretakers do well, get the job, it doesn't work out longer term. It just depends on what structure they put in place and what guys these guys can call on. Do you know what I mean? If you're looking for who the most qualified guy for the job is, I mean, I don't think even Barry would admit, he said it himself in the last few weeks, he's not the most qualified for that job at this point in time. And 6 games hasn't changed that in the last 6 weeks. So there might be that the new sport and structure behind the scenes have got something in mind for that job. It's a difficult job and it's a hard one to attract. I get that. And it might be that the first manager on the door isn't the one that gets the success the long-term plan will bring. And does that mean that Barry is a fall guy for the year and takes the first year hits?
That's a fair point.
It might appeal to them to say, listen, it's going to take about a year to get up and running where we want to be. And therefore, at that point in time, we'll see if it does well, great. If it doesn't really work out, no harm. I mean, it depends how short, medium, long term they view it. Do you know what I mean?
We've got a comment here from John Curry on YouTube. Is this what Rangers are looking for in a manager? Someone who digs out results against the bigger teams, then has to come from 2-0 down against minnows? Really? I get the point, John, but I made the point in my column. I think he was let down again. I think that he saw aspects of his team's performance and of individual players at the weekend that would have really disappointed him, because I think that he thought he'd kind of thrashed these things out. He'd got past that point. But then you look at it in the opening seconds, Raskin, of all people, gives the ball away. Dundee get a corner. They score from the corner. Tavernier doesn't attack it aggressively enough. Brilliant finish for Simon Murray. Second goal's a kind of a list of errors, all in a rapid space of time where Igaman doesn't deal with the ball properly on the edge of his own penalty box. Sterling doesn't come out with the rest of the defence, plays Shaughnessy onside. Butland, I don't know what he's doing with the header. I mean, these are big key players at key moments in matches making terrible mistakes. I think, I tell you this, though, Mike, I saw Barry Ferguson go up the tunnel at half-time as the players were coming off the pitch, and he had that look in his eye and he had the kind of puffed out chest. I thought, he's going to unload in that dressing room at half-time. And I think he probably did, and I think he probably got the reaction that he was looking for. But I think this is the difficulty with this group of players. You think that you know what you're doing with them, only for them to turn in a performance out the blue that was probably completely unexpected.
But this is the thing. This Rangers team at the moment, in 6 months' time, what's it going to look like? I mean, you're looking to probably need a couple of centre halves, a couple of new fullbacks, maybe. A new striker, a couple of wide men. We don't know what's happening with Czerny. At least another midfield player. So you're now getting up to 6, 7, 8 new players, first team player ready, count the team. So it's not going to be this team. I mean, I think, Barry Ferguson has done a decent job of putting a rocket up this current group. This current group's not going to exist. It's not going to be the current group.
But it will.
Next August, Michael, a totally different looking side.
But Michael, it will. Unless they start putting the plans together sooner rather than later. This is the problem that Rangers face. I know that they've got the takeover to complete. I know that's agenda, number one on the agenda. But they have to have an eye on next season. They have to already be starting to look. Otherwise, they are going to end up with the same group of players. Yeah, but this is they've got to hope in the background that the takeover group have got an idea of a director of football who's got an extensive contact list that he can go to, and they'll be getting finances and say, right, there's the guy who I want to be the manager. There's a list of ready-made potential signings, a 200-guy list. We can afford X, Y, and Z. We'll go and start to get the ball rolling. You've got to hope that they have got this package already in place. When they do come in, they can say, right, we're going to get moving here. It might not be that quick and happening because the football, it's like the wheels do turn fairly slowly at times. But you've just got to hope that that's what's happening in the background. They're not just coming out a blank piece of paper and going, right, where do we start? Boys, what's first on the agenda? I need a new first team squad and a new manager, and et cetera, et cetera. You've got to hope and think and believe that that's happening in the background already. Right. Well, interesting. I certainly think that over the next few weeks, and what I found interesting as well, just earlier on this afternoon, Michael, Rangers put out emails to supporters inviting them to apply for tickets, register for tickets for a face-to-face with Patrick Stewart, the new CEO. I think it's April the 23rd. Now, if you're Patrick Stewart, would you have organised that in the, thinking that the takeover might not yet be completed, or is that an indication, as I think it probably is, that they believe by that time the sort of deal's done and the Americans have got the keys to the front door?
I have to think that it has to be the latter, because otherwise he's arranged it for the was that a Monday night? Was that like 23rd?
It was a Wednesday, maybe.
Wednesday. It's potentially that's the Wednesday after the pals across the city will be having a title party. It could happen that weekend. So it could be that's the first game. I think it's the first game after the split, if I'm not mistaken. So it could be that Celtic could clinch the title that day, and then that week they're going to have to face the fans. So unless there's some good news at that point, it might be an awkward timing slightly.
A fiery old meeting.
But it could be. Listen, I think punters are now wanting to find out what's happening. I think they're now just impatient to see what's the new regime going to look like and what's their big grand plan. I think that's where they are just now. And what Patrick Stewart says to them might, not sure it doesn't matter, but it's like he's not the guy they want to hear for right now. You know what I mean?
I think they want some answers from him though about, especially if it's not completed by then.
The questions are, what's happening with this takeover? When can we expect it? They all want to know how much money is going to get spent on the squad. What's happening with the manager? That kind of thing. It's the big existential question, isn't it? It's not the usual AGM. Why are the pies so cold at the stand?
Oh, I don't know. There's always one of them.
Somebody will ask you about the pies or something like, the hot dogs are rotten, by the way. Somebody will mention that. But listen, it's the big meaty, well, not pies, big meaty questions required.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that one. I'm intrigued by the timing of it, because everything we've been told all along has pointed to this deal, the takeover being concluded in April. So I wonder if that's a pretty clear indication that the club are expecting things to be finalised by that point. I really don't know if you want to walk into a room, if you're Patrick Stewart, walk into a room full of Rangers fans at that point and not be able to tell them the information that they want to hear. So I think the next couple of weeks could be interesting, but I do come back to it, Mick. In terms of planning for next season, the Americans aren't going to want to come in and get off to a sluggish start and make it look like nothing has changed. So I think there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be addressed probably over the next couple of weeks, which could have a really big impact, a defining impact on what next season looks like. You have to say the Americans will be coming in. They can't not put together a proper challenge next season, because I think that's all that Rangers fans are asking them to do is come in and make them competitive. And for all these reasons, I think they have to start making their moves now. If they leave it any later than April, I think they're too far gone. Clubs have started making plans, putting plans in place back in January for this window.
Yeah, I get that, but listen, I mean, see the big gaps that appear in Glasgow are sometimes a little bit kind of I'm not saying false, right? But they can change quite quickly. I mean, you look back to Celtic when Ange Postecoglou came in June. They had a new CEO as well at that point in time, who didn't last very long, obviously. But at that point in time, Rangers won the league by an absolute mile. Remember under Gerrard. There was talk at that point. It was the old Dave King pack of cards thing, and talk about dominance for a few years at Rangers, and we felt as though that the sands had shifted in Glasgow. Fast forward 12 months and Celtic are champions. Fast forward three more years, and it looks as though the length is like all shit ahead of Rangers.
Yeah,
it doesn't actually take much to upset the equilibrium in Glasgow. I mean, Rangers. You look at this season when they've beaten Celtic twice and are 13 points behind. You think it might not take that as much as some people think sometimes to tip the balance back in their favour, or at least tip it into a kind of more competitive nature. Mm-hmm. So but again, though, I think there is a huge work required, and you have to be really smart. I'm saying they might need 7 new first-team players, which is a lot. Whereas Celtic under Postecoglou, they get 7 first-team players and they got them in, and they hit the ground running. The guys like your Medas and Kyogos, and back then it was Juranovic and Giacomakis and Moyes. These guys, they all came in, hit the ground running, and did the job. Whereas too many Rangers signings in the last 3 years have not. hit the ground running and have not managed to get up and run at all.
Yeah.
So that they have to come in, be quick, be nimble on their feet, get in the transfer market, get their manager in place, director of football, and get the signings in, and make sure they're good signings. And if they do that, I mean, it's a bit like the Romans, apart from the roads, medication, the sanitation, apart from getting the manager, the director of football, and all the signings right, if they do all that, it's an absolute scoosh.
What have the Americans done for us?
If they do all that, it's a breeze. You know what I mean?
There's Craigie comment on YouTube. Stevie G will be back next season with Barry as his number 2. Now, I've heard, and the Steven Gerrard rumour is never far away, is it? No. I can tell you, in my belief though, and I did write a column about it today, Barry Ferguson will be number 2 to nobody. Now that he's had a taste, we know Barry obviously from working with him as a colleague at Record Sport over the period. Do you think, Mick, that in any way, shape or form, Barry Ferguson could be convinced to step back and a seat at the back of the dugout and watch somebody else drive it?
Listen, I don't think for Barry it would be the worst idea in the world. I mean, I think it's a great gig, and I think if they bring in someone, say they bring in someone from Europe, having somebody who knows what it's all about on the ground would be a good thing. I just think sometimes with situations, if you got, especially if Barry has a decent end of the season, and say any new manager has a bit of a bumpy spell, you're going to get people like get Barry back in the front again. And this guy who's in charge is going to be worried about getting stabbed in the back. And it's hard to kind of shake off that kind of feeling sometimes. And I'm not saying that become for Barry, far from it. I'm just saying the perception is sometimes is that. But I did think it'd be the worst idea to have something like Barry alongside a new manager, especially someone, if it is a foreign manager. I think it would be beneficial to have him in there. It might clearly, but he's clearly got something to offer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I just, in terms of the person that he is, I think he sees himself now. He's got a taste of this. Sees himself as a leader. Yeah. I don't think that that he'll be placated, patted in the head, and given the opportunity to sit now and take a back seat while somebody else is in charge of it. I just don't see that being part of Barry Ferguson's makeup now. I think it's a sort of all or nothing situation now with Barry Ferguson. He either gets this job or he comes back and writes for the Record. Yeah,
I get that, and I would completely understand that as well. I just think if he do take a wee step back from it and look at the bigger picture, I think if he said to Barry in January, listen, the manager's really toiling, I want you in as number 2 to help him out, would he take the job? He would have took it. Of course he would have done. Because he's that taste for it, and he's done pretty well, and he's carried himself, I think, really, really, really impressively in that role as well. I get that. I can understand why he'd be reticent then to take a backward step at that point. But like I say, if he got offered that job to him 6 months ago, he'd jumped at it probably. So I don't know. I can't see it. You're right. I agree with you. I can't really see it happening. But I think it should be on the table.
No, I think there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be discussed. And I think the sooner that the Americans can conclude this deal, Andrew Kavanagh and the 49ers, the better in terms of putting all these building blocks in place that you mentioned. Anyway, this is an interesting suggestion here from John Curry on YouTube. Big Ange could be available in the summer. I think that's one that the Rangers fans would go for.
Do you know what? That's one of the ones that'd be a lot of wailing and gnashing teeth at first, but I think secretly someone might go, you know what? That'd be quite good fun. But I can't I couldn't see it. Listen, Big Ange is as ruthless as they come when it comes to his career. But I couldn't see that coming.
I think Ange might regard it as a retrograde step, having made it to English Premier League, to come back to Glasgow and go on the other side. I just don't see that. And he is a big guy and a colourful character, but I don't think that's one that would interest him.
I don't think so. I mean, listen, it doesn't look from at Spurs, does it? It's and he's been a bit unfortunate this year in terms of injuries and all that stuff. It was great for most of last year. I think if it does go the way it's heading at Spurs, I think he'll get plenty of offers. He's at least another job in England in him. Somebody will fancy a bit of that. I mean, the way he brings to the club. So I think he can still survive at Spurs, albeit it doesn't look great now. But I think his phone will be red hot if it did happen.
I think if Big Ange does stay at Spurs, he's going to have to he's another one that's going to have to hit the ground running at a speed, a fair speed at the start of next season.
He's also a big hero at Celtic, and I don't think he would jeopardise that. I know I'm joking, and ruthless. I mean, he's held in such high regard at Celtic, and even I think he knows that as well. And I think he knows that he's going to end up one of these guys that could be in 20 years' time in a convention in Australia and be getting mobbed by fans. And he knows that. He knows the history and the kind of the fairy tale of football. I don't think he'd jeopardise that.
No, he's not going to come in and blow up his legacy there. Not a chance. You were at Celtic at the weekend, Mick. It's funny. It feels everything just feels a little bit quiet around Celtic just now. It's just they're letting Rangers, got a careering about the country. Having performances like the weekend, losing goals, scoring goals. Barry Ferguson trying to, lay down his marker for the job. Celtic just keep ticking over. And I know, obviously, they had the disappointment at the Old Firm result. But that was them getting back in the bike at the weekend, wasn't it?
This is probably the most impressive thing about Celtic under Brendan Rodgers. They have had the odd little bump, the odd little setback, but they don't let it spiral into a bad spell. They bounce back straight away. And it was like, that game against Hearts was a difficult game. Hearts have been going really well recently. They've really turned it around. Critchley has done a brilliant job because Hearts early in the season were all over the place. He's done really well, and that game should have been a dangerous game. And in the second half, Celtic were so comfortable. Hearts it was damage limitation. And by the way, Hearts came in, fair play to them. I mean, it was absolutely suicidal stuff at times, I thought, the way they played. But it is the way to do it against Celtic, because if it works, it works spectacularly. If it doesn't, you get picked off. I mean, they went really high. They tried to rattle Celtic, and they did a wee bit. 15 minutes, they got under Celtic's skin. They forced a few duffed clearances, and they were pinning Celtic out of their own third. And it did seem to work. But the problem is a bit of quality in the first goal. Celtic passed their way out from the back, right through the press. The ball was the back of the net. And Hearts at that point, you could actually sense it. It was like the game plan and all the belief they had in the game plan just eroded straight away. It was almost like, well, that worked for a spell, but the one time they got through, and they never really quite convinced they could do it again. And they tried it again. They stuck to their guns, and then the third goal, yet again, right for the back, bump, back in the net. And at that point, it was off. Well, we had a bash at the plan. No, it's no worked. So they kind of lost their faith, and Celtic did what they've done all season. That game is very familiar. Similar to a lot of games I've played in Celtic. They just kind of have a level they can go to where they're clinical, and they'll see a team off, and then they'll shut a game out. And they could have had more second half, and they tried a few things, and I thought it was a really controlled performance. But that's a game that could have been a tight game, an edgy game, a real kind of tough battle, and it turned into an absolute stroll. Yeah, and that's what Celtic have done. I mean, it looks like the Rangers game is a bad day. But again, Rangers are not a terrible side, and they're good against good teams. So I'm not surprised that happened against Rangers, because Rangers have proved it in Europe. When you play against a team that play a certain way, they can combat that, and they have got players that can cause problems at the other end. Can't defend so well, but they cause problems. So I'm not that surprised with that. Yeah. And Celtic have dusted themselves down and thought, right, okay, that didn't really work out the way we planned, but back to doing what they do. And and that's why they're going to be champions in a few weeks' time, because they have been that kind of relentlessly organised and disciplined and determined. It's just what they do, isn't it?
It's funny, Mike. You mentioned that Hearts bringing that kind of game plan to Celtic Park. That reminded me, there was an Old Firm game earlier this season when Rangers did something similar. They went on the front foot against Celtic, and it worked for 10 minutes. But the first time that Celtic got in behind them, they looked absolutely scared stiff, and they forgot about their game plan. I think that was under Clement, wasn't it, earlier this season? The exact same thing happened to Hearts there. And by the way, one thing that I think should be highlighted, certainly I'm going to highlight it because I always do with Callum McGregor, but his pass is the thing that unlocks Hearts for Maeda's first goal. And I honestly, Mick, I know that, so maybe, what's the old phrase, about you get contempt for someone over familiarity. Yeah, so you wonder if there's Celtic fans that kind of, we've seen Callum McGregor and we're like, honestly, see, every time he comes out the team and every time he goes back into the team, he's just a class act, Mick. And the pass for Maeda's goal, for me, that's what changes that entire match at the weekend. It's his quality on the ball, his ability to spot that pass.
And it's not even just the pass; it's the fact that he drops into a pocket of space to offer himself out, because Celtic got in a bit of bother, knocked out wide, and a bit of a kind of hopeful kind of hook inside from, I think it was Sloop. But McGregor, he takes it on the half turn and he turns straight away, and it's a gamble because a lot of midfield players, especially deep lying ones, they're just like, control it, pull it around, then look for a pass, knock it back away and turn. He spun and then picked the pass.
Yeah,
and that's what he brings. I mean, that's. We talk about playing through the press. I know it's a bit like a hipster thing we talk about these days, but he is the guy that does that for Celtic. He will drop in deep, take the ball on the half turn, and make a forward pass. And it did. It totally uncorked the Hearts' defence, and it wrecked their entire game plan. It took away all the faith they had in a game plan that had been working a treat up until that point.
And Cal McGregor can do that in an instant, in a single moment.
He's done it. He done it in the. I thought he'd done it in the cup final against Rangers when Rangers were doing a slightly different way of pressing. They were not pressing high. They're pressing in the middle of the park. McGregor was really struggling, but he kept demanding the ball, kept him, and it just changed the momentum of the game in their favour again. He does it all the time because he's not scared to take the ball in tight areas. He will take it on the half turn. He will make a forward pass. He's invaluable to Celtic. Really, he is. Guys like Gary Engel should be watching him and saying that's the guy I need to be.
Mm-hmm. Quite right. He's a standard setter at Celtic, and he has been for years. Marzuno says Cal Mack haters might as well just tattoo Dafty in their foreheads. Clueless. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. And here's an interesting point as well. Maida would have hit the corner flag 2 years ago. He swept it away in style. I think that's talking about that opening goal. I agree with that, Mick. Do you? Yeah. I mean, is this another indicative of sort of a vindication for Brendan Rodgers? Another one where he sprinkled the old magic dust? Because Maida seems like such a more refined and polished player in the final third than the one that Brendan Rodgers inherited from Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, he's got confidence. I mean, you can see it. I mean, his goals now. That one on Saturday. I mean, a lot of people 6 months ago that ball he's racing through, you think he's got a bit too much time to think about this one. This can go anywhere. I mean, he could tuck it in the top corner, or he could batter it against his left foot and spin it on the bar. I mean, that's you got to take it off with the smooth with him sometimes. At times it is a bit unpredictable. The last since some of the year, you can see the confidence flowing through him. I mean, he's scoring all kinds of goals, left foot, right foot, headers, you name it, volleys. He's in some vein of form. Listen, he plays for Japan usually. He doesn't play it wide for them. I think Celtic played him out wide because he is relentlessly battering fullbacks to give the ball away.
But there's a calmness and a composure to him now in front of goal. His decision making in that final third, Mike, that I didn't think he would ever. You know, the old saying about new tricks to old dogs and all that.
Yeah.
I thought that ship had sailed, but again, it's another sort of indication of the work that Brendan Rodgers can do with players on the training ground. I think he's transformed him in terms of his end product.
Do you know what? It's a long-term thing. We were out with the Celtic in Japan the season before last. So when Rodgers' first summer back, and he played Maida through the middle in a game against Yokohama, and he scored a hat-trick through the middle. And he said, I see this guy as a striker. I don't see him as a wide man. Because Rodgers likes his wide men to be a bit more technical, a bit more cute one-to-one. And I think he saw him as a striker then. Mm-hmm. Turned out we'd done a great job in the wing, and that's when it was put to one side. Kyogo was doing great and all that stuff as well. But I always think the back of his mind thought, this guy's better through the middle. So it's a long-term thought he's had about this. It's came about by necessity, but it's worked a treat for him.
Michael, we've been joined by our resident referee, Des Roache. Des, we've just been killing time that you got here. I don't know what happened. I don't know if there was technical issues, but welcome to the show. How are you doing, mate?
I'm fine. I've been sitting here since the show started.
You weren't popping up on my screen.
Sorry, it's all right, Mick. I just know Keith not really that interested.
No, not at all. In fact, I think there's some big issues, some big decisions to discuss from over the weekend, Des. Where would you like to start? What about Pataudry? Papa Gay's tackle on Andy Halliday. That was a bad one, was it not?
Yeah, I thought it was particularly bad. When you see that he's off the ground, he's not in control of himself. He's got a scissoring motion. He's taking Andrew down with two legs. To be fair to Andy never made overly much of it. But I do think that VAR, and I'm quite surprised it was Don Robertson who was VAR there.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that Don should have been saying to Ross Harvey, I think you need another look at it.
He didn't go to the screen, did he?
No. It was just purely dealt with on the field of play. As I said, which I'm quite surprised at. I didn't realise that just the severity of it. But yeah, for me that was a red card that was missed, unfortunately.
Mick, red for you?
I thought it was a red. I mean, and don't get me wrong, and the Glasgow Saturday morning amateur would have been a cracker. But and the Scottish Premiership, usually that's with VAR, that's usually a red. Yeah, I think he got off the hook with that one.
We've seen a lot of other ones punished more severely that potentially weren't. So I think that was a mistake, unfortunately.
I think
there was another big talking point from the weekend, Des, at Somerset Park. Victor Wanyama's debut for Dunfermline comes off the bench. I don't know how long he's on the pitch, 10, 15 minutes. Red card for deliberate handball. Am I right in thinking that some of the refereeing fraternity are arguing that was a bad decision, a wrong decision?
Some of the refereeing fraternity and some people I know within football have been sending me messages, managers, players, etc. I think it was a red card every single minute. As when Yamas went down, he was almost doing the front crawl. His hands went round and he's hooked it away. And there's actually a really good view from just behind the goals. You actually see the goalkeeper changing his momentum of where he's going to go because of the ball changing direction. I've got no idea what anyone can think that's not a red card.
Well, I don't think we're going to have any arguments here. It's a red card for me because I've never seen a more clear example of preventing a goal scoring opportunity. All the United player needs to do at that point is walk onto the ball and he's got a shot at goal. Because there is a Dunfermline player, I think that's part of the argument. There's another defender that's covering across. He's not getting there. He's not getting there before the United player who just needs to walk onto the ball and he's got a shot at goal just to keep it at beat. I think is that not the argument in a nutshell right there?
Absolutely. So the offence that he's been sent off for is denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. It's not saying you're going to score.
No,
right?
But you've got a shot at goal.
You've got a shot at goal. You have an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. So if you've got a shot at goal and that's been denied to you, then by the nature of the words that's used in the law, it's a red card.
Is that a key phrase, Des? Because remember the olden days, it used to be the shout was he's last man. That was always the shout, wasn't it? He's a last man. It's a last man challenge, a last man intervention. It's always the last man. These days, that doesn't actually mean that it's not a goal scoring opportunity. It doesn't. Being the last man isn't quite what it means now, is it? It's not the same thing, is it? It's denying a goal scoring opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was an incident in the Aberdeen game as well. There was a foul in the Aberdeen half where I think there's maybe one or two Motherwell defenders there. The foul was made. You're 70 yards for goal, right? That's last man-ish, right? Yeah. But you're not denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. You've still got a hell of a lot of work to do before you get to that. Before you get that opportunity. Yeah. But when Yama's made that foul, he's 18 yards, another 5 yards outside, 23 yards for goal. So yeah, the wording is denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. Last man, that doesn't exist.
Okay, we've got a comment here coming in from YouTube. Victor looked like a drunk parent at the egg and spoon race on race day. He did a bit. Right, okay, that's that one dealt with. I think we're all in agreement there as well. Can we find something to disagree with? What about Dens Park? There was a couple of moments at Dens Park, Des, that I think Dundee are really unhappy about the fact that they could have gone 3-0 up, wasn't it? When I think Finn Robertson goes through, buries it in the first half. I think it was a Josh Mulligan tackle on Ridvan Yilmaz that the play get pulled back for. Was there enough in that? I'm not sure that there was.
I'm like you. The pictures that we've seen weren't really conclusive. It was when Mulligan's went for the challenge. It looks like Yilmaz has got there prior to Mulligan, therefore you would think potentially a foul. it wasn't really highlighted particularly well for me, and it was almost glossed over. They never really done any sort of review of the game afterwards.
But surely is that not one of these examples where it happens and, you know, VAR will look at that? We just
absolutely.
don't get told that VAR are looking at it.
Any goal that happens has to get back to the attacking phase of play. So that will have been looked at. David Dickinson. David was quite well positioned as well. David was very close to it and did have a clear look at it. It's not to get splinters on my backside, but it wasn't conclusive. And if it's not conclusive, I can't say he was wrong. But I think Tony Docherty's got a certain degree of leverage on it that might have been one that escaped. But as I said, there wasn't particularly. I don't know if you've seen anything different from me, but it was only the BBC stuff I've seen.
I was just watching it, and I thought that Yilmaz had got himself into trouble. I thought he'd taken a heavy touch. He'd kind of overrun it, and I think he'd got himself in bother. And I think that he then plays for the foul. And there was a bit of a nip and tuck and triple pike sort of reaction when Mulligan's tackle comes in. I think he got quite lucky there. I think it's difficult for the ref at full speed, but I thought that was what VAR was for. Mick, did you have a view on that one?
Yeah, I mean, Tony Docherty's a few gripes at referees this season. I don't know if that's maybe going against him a wee bit as well at times, because he does mention it a lot. But yeah, I think he had a case in this one. I think he did. Aye.
Don't know if Rangers come back from that, do they?
Well, listen, these days, who knows? I mean, Rangers, you can't put a pound on it. What happens in Rangers games these days? So who knows? But yeah, it was a crucial moment. But I think I could see that. I could see that I can take contention there. I don't think it's a black and white one, is it? I think you could argue it, I suppose, either way. But I tend to agree with you guys. I was going to ask you as well, Des, about one. So I was at Parkhead on Saturday. I've only seen the VAR call for the Celtic penalty shout when Harry Milne put his hands up. He was claiming for a free kick, and the ball hit him in the arm, and I think it was originally a penalty awarded, and it was obviously overturned. But I couldn't see where the foul was. I don't know. I couldn't figure out who had fouled whom. But I seen him claiming for it.
I was glad that wasn't given, because that was just a natural reaction. And see, last year there's probably every chance that would have been given as a penalty last year. But as you said there, you're looking for the foul beforehand, and you're like, what actually went on? No, I don't know. I think that was sensible refereeing, and don't draw attention to yourself, because nobody's looking for that there. I was okay with that. Yeah, and I'm glad that wasn't awarded.
See, I always think defenders are. It's like naivety. Don't ever stick your hands up or claim it for things while the game's still alive.
Exactly.
It'd been a comical penalty kick, right enough, if it had been given. It'd been one of those kind of slapstick ones, wouldn't it? But I thought it was a strange moment.
John Curry says on YouTube, what did Des think of Kevin Clancy's dummy in the build-up to Celtic's third goal?
It's probably the only bit of football ability I've ever seen Kevin have in his life.
By avoiding to kick it.
No, that's deliberate, because he can't kick it.
Right, going to round up. There was two other decisions at Dens Park, two potential Rangers penalties. Des, your view? I think the first one was on Balogun in the first half. I think the second one was on Danilo in the second half. Did you get a look at them?
Yeah, I watched them. The initial one, Balogun, and the Dundee player Silla. I thought initially, and I get shot down here. I thought initially Balogun looked as if he was overstretching to get to the ball, and then Silla's just made contact. Now, not all contact is a foul, because it's a physical game. No, I'm okay with that. I was quite happy that they've came together. There was nothing there. The ball was running out of play. It was going away. Nah, I'm all right. I'm okay with that.
I'm not so sure. You know, that one looked as I thought that could easily have been given. I think it was a clumsy challenge, and he's coming in from behind Balogun. I think the two of them are kind of scrambling to get to the ball, though, aren't they? Yeah. And Balogun's almost got to move around another Dundee player to get there. But you know what? I think if I was Rangers, I might have been looking for that one. The Danilo one, I didn't think was a penalty kick at all, but others aren't so sure. What's your verdict?
Again, I've watched it and I've seen it on both sides. Garza's came in. I don't think it's a penalty. As Garza got there just with the skin of his teeth and moved it, it was really, really tight. It was extremely tight. But again, there wasn't much clamour for it. And you can usually tell by players' reactions that are next to it what the feeling is and what the temperature is there. So unfortunately, Rangers fans, I've got to support the referee on that one. I don't think it was a penalty.
Mick, any views?
The Danilo one, yeah, I agreed. Not enough contact, really. I don't think.
I agree.
As that phrase that Des said, that not every bit of contact has to be a penalty kick. The Balogun one was a bit like, what was the one last season in an Old Firm game? Remember the ones that the Lagerbielke free kick that was ruled? Remember that one?
Dessers.
Aye, remember that one?
Dessers didn't get the goal because it was.
Well,
he kind of
it's
kicked
like
through the back of Lagerbielke's leg.
Aye, and it's like who's got possession of the ball at that point in time. So it's almost like who's fouling who at some point. You can argue they kicked him and he kicked him. Who's got the? I mean, it's a weird. It's one of those. Remember that thing on the internet, the dress, and people say it's blue and some people say it's green. You can't really. It's like depending how you're looking at it, you think, well, that could be either way. I don't know. I wouldn't want to see penalty kicks given for that kind of thing. To be honest with you, that's the only thing. And the same with the other ones. Not enough.
You're setting yourself up there. It's got to be, if you're given a penalty kick, it's a big decision in the game. So you've got to be 100% correct. As I said, the Danilo one, no, don't think it was. The Balogun, I can see why people want it. If it's your team, you're obviously shouting for it. But I thought Balogun was overstretching for it. Silla is allowed to challenge for it. Balogun's coming round. I just don't think it was conclusive enough.
Yeah.
All right, Des, well, thank you very much. And listen, my apologies. I didn't see you sitting at the side of the stage. I thought you hadn't turned up for your work.
No, absolutely not.
But it was well worth the wait, Des. Thanks for joining us. Mick, thanks for joining us. And all you guys, comments, thanks very much for all them. Thanks for watching. And we'll do it all again tomorrow night, hopefully with Daniel Caw back in the position. Cheers, guys.